Hi guys, it's me, Chazza HD, and welcome today to the 2021 Bahrain Grand Prix race watch-along for the first Grand Prix of 2021. Finally, it's here, race day in this season, and we are in definitely for a very interesting race. Maybe not an absolute classic, of course, it's Formula One. Sometimes we do get some boring races when we expect it to be very good, so you never know what's going to happen, but I think we are in definitely for a good race, probably, hopefully great. So many battles in the field that we're going to be looking forward to. Of course, the battle for the win, the battle possibly for the podium if anything happens to any of the top three. The midfield battle is so close, and it's going to be so great. And we are in, again, I think, for just a very interesting 57 laps. I think every single lap will be intriguing because it will be moving around constantly in terms of, what is going to happen. But let me thankfully bring in, for the first time, I think last time we did a race watch along together was the 1st of December 2019, which was the 2019 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Bringing back to the channel Nib for this race watch along. Nib, how you doing?
I am doing very good. I'm doing very good. Yeah, that's great. That's a great start to the stream. I'm doing very good. I hope everyone is doing great in the chat, and I hope you're doing well as well. Of course, I'm hoping that it's a much more exciting Grand Prix than the 2019 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Because remember, after about 10 laps, I just wanted the stream to end so I could go to sleep because the race was boring. But yeah, I am super pumped for tonight's Grand Prix. I can't wait. I'm so happy that I got my prediction right, that Verstappen was going to be on pole after you've been running around telling me, oh, Verstappen will never get a pole. I'll never predict Verstappen on pole. And then he's on pole by 4/10. So I'm super happy about that. And then hopefully he gets the fastest lap and the race win. And then my prediction can be complete of Verstappen getting the Grand Slam.
That would be, that'd definitely be an awful defeat for me in terms of these predictions. But before we get into talking about the Grand Prix, as we're about 26 minutes away from lights out. Let me first, for anyone who is not sure of what the starting grid is and what the results from qualifying were, let me just quickly get into them. So, let me just roll those down. So Max Verstappen does start on pole position. Lewis Hamilton second, Valtteri Bottas third, and Leclerc fourth, Gasly fifth, and then Ricardo, Norris, Sainz, Alonso, and Stroll round out the top 10. And then P11 to P15, knocked out in Q2 yesterday, was Perez, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, and Russell. And then knocked out in Q1 was Ocon, Latifi, Vettel, Mick Schumacher, and Nikita Mazepin. Sebastian Vettel, though, will start from the back of the grid today because of a yellow flag infringement in Q1, I think because of Nikita Mazepin's spin at the end of the session. So it doesn't rain, but it pours for Sebastian Vettel. But that is your starting grid for the Grand Prix. Now, let's get into, I guess, the big talking points ahead of the Grand Prix. And we'll start off, of course, with the fight for the win, which I think today will be between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And I think 80% at least of F1 fans think today that's what is going to be the battle for the win. It comes down to a lot of, I think, fine margins today, though. I think Mercedes will not be, 4 or 5 tenths of a second a lap slower than Max Verstappen. I'd be very surprised if that was the case. Of course, the start is going to be so important because if Max gets a poor start, it could really affect his race in terms of getting the victory. Hamilton, I think if he can be kind on his tyres and the Mercedes is kind on its tyres, then I still think there is a way, say, in the pit stop, whenever they pit, there is still a way for Mercedes to get into the lead. The only thing hampering that is if Max is a lot quicker than I think he's going to be. I think it'll probably be, they're only going to be separated by maybe a tenth or two at most, I think, during the course of the Grand Prix, because I see them lapping around the same lap time. So I think, again, it's going to come down to very fine margins. The start, pit stops, overcuts, undercuts, all of that. and I think it will be a close-knit thing. But Nib, do you think if Max is still in the lead at the end of the first lap, do you think he will just run away with it, or do you expect Lewis Hamilton to have some sort of answer to the pace of Max Verstappen from yesterday?
Well, we'll see, because on the race runs that they did on Friday, it was pretty even. But Bottas was mainly saying that their Mercedes tyre seems to go a little bit towards the end of the stint compared to everyone else. So that would be interesting to see how that pans out. But of course, them lot on the mediums, it could that'll help things. Of course, they're not starting on the soft tyres like some others further back. But it's going to be interesting for sure. I think if Hamilton can jump Verstappen at the start, although I think it will be very difficult for Hamilton to do that because the dirty side of the grid, especially with all the sand and everything. If you watched F2 earlier, on the first lap, there was sand absolutely everywhere because the wind has picked up massively overnight. There's a big headwind into turn 1, which is going to make DRS super powerful. I think if Hamilton can get ahead of Verstappen on the first lap, then I think we could see more of a battle than, say, if Verstappen had the lead at the end of the first lap. I really do think that the Red Bull will have the pace over the Mercedes in this race. It'll still be close. It'll be 2 to 3 tenths the advantage, if that. So it's going to be super close, and I'm very much looking forward to it, and I hope we get an absolute ripper of a battle.
Yeah, it'd be great if we do get a wheel-to-wheel battle between those two. And hopefully Hamilton can really put up a good fight today. Now, the midfield battle, it really is up for grabs. I think, honestly, from Gasly, or not even Gasly, from Leclerc down to, say, even down to 13th, 14th place, anything could happen. It really is that close. It's going to be moving around all the time. I cannot wait, especially to see the midfield. And I think, honestly, I'm more excited about the midfield for this Grand Prix than I am actually the fight for the win, because it will be so close and there will definitely be surprises out there. But it looks as though Pierre Gasly is the favourite to win that battle because he is starting P5 on mediums when Leclerc is P4 on the soft tyres, and that will be a big advantage for Gasly. Then, of course, you have the two McLarens behind with Sainz there, and then Alonso and Stroll. But we still do have, of course, Perez and Tsunoda, two very quick drivers in two very quick cars outside the top 10 as well. I think me and Nib, I'd say, are in agreement on Gasly probably being the strong favourite to win the midfield battle. But Nib, say out of McLaren, Ferrari, and maybe Alfa Romeo, I mean, how do you see those teams getting on, when pitted, of course, against each other?
Mate, I don't really have a clue, to be honest. I think one thing that will really help today is certainly the power unit advantage that McLaren has over Ferrari. The Mercedes engine and the Honda engine are right up at the top of the power units, whereas the Ferrari obviously isn't as strong as those two engines. So that will certainly give the AlphaTauris and the McLarens an advantage down the straights and potential for overtaking. But who knows what will happen? We could have safety cars. It's a real possibility that anything could happen today. The strong winds could really affect the cars, and we've seen that the AlphaTauri actually handles very well in the wind. We saw that in pre-season testing, of course. So, having a car that works really well in the wind is going to be super important today. And, we got a kind of good glimpse of that over the first couple of days of testing, and we saw that Ferrari did struggle a little bit. So I think Ferrari potentially could go a little bit backwards today, especially Leclerc. I mean, if Leclerc holds on to fourth, then that's going to be some performance by him. But that midfield is going to be super, super close. It's so hard to predict.
It is. I have gone for a prediction for the midfield, which I'll reveal probably in a few minutes' time, probably in 10 minutes from now, as we're about 20 minutes away from lights out. But you can't. When you look at the midfield, you can't just say, maybe that you could a couple of years ago, say, yeah, this is the team that's going to be, at the front of that pack, and this is what's probably going to happen. And sometimes we were actually correct. today, I mean, except probably for Gasly, who I think will be very strong, again, with the McLarens and the Ferraris and Tsunoda and Alfa Romeo, Alonso, Stroll, we don't know. We could be surprised. One of those teams who we don't think is going to be that quick could be amazingly quick in the race, such as Alonso and the Alpine. We just don't know. And that's what is, I think, so great about what we're going to see in the Grand Prix today. There is actually, though, a couple things. Let me just adjust this picture on the screen. There you go, of the AlphaTauri. There has been a couple things that have happened today. Again, Sebastian Vettel will be starting from the pit lane because of his penalty. And then Sergio Perez has replaced some parts on his power unit. Nib, what were the parts again that he's replaced?
The control electronics and I forgot the other one.
But he's replaced something quite important on his power unit.
The same things that Gasly had replaced yesterday before qualifying. So it shows that it's a little bit of a weakness in the Honda power unit. So yeah, new control electronics and new energy store, the exact same as Gasly had before qualifying yesterday.
Yeah. So we'll see if there is any issue with any Honda powered team. I'm sure we'll see in this Grand Prix because again, it's a power circuit and it is very, very warm out there. And then for the rest of the field, honestly, I do think Alpine and Aston Martin will be quite a bit slower today with Alonso and Stroll, respectively, compared to what they were like yesterday, because I think Alfa Romeo will be a bit quicker. And I think you'll have, again, Perez and Tsunoda coming through as well, so it's going to be tough for those two drivers, particularly, to get a points finish. And then towards the back of the grid, looks as though Williams are probably ahead of Haas F1, which is good to see from Williams. Of course, Sebastian Vettel down in last place, going to be starting the Grand Prix from. You got Esteban Ocon in 16th. Those two really affected by the yellow flags. With Vettel, I don't really... if he does finish the Grand Prix, I don't really know where he can get to. Unless there is chaos, I don't think he can get to the points because, as very good as he is, his car is just not quite there yet. Just isn't quite there yet. I think it is better than the Alpine, but it's not a massive difference or anything. He should be able to beat the Williamses and the Haas cars. So then if there's any retirements from the cars ahead, say in the midfield, 3 or 4 retirements there, then maybe he can get close to points, but it's going to be tough for him. I'm thinking, 12th place is where Sebastian, again, unless he makes an amazing start to the race, has luck with safety cars, or again, there's chaos, I don't really see Sebastian getting into the points. Do you think, Nib, he can nick a point, or is it just too much to ask for in that car?
Sorry, who were we talking about? Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it will be very difficult for Sebastian Vettel. Obviously his testing was severely compromised. It's been a pretty abysmal start from, I think he would have obviously gotten to Q2 and, maybe would have snuck into Q3 yesterday, but obviously the yellow flags of Mazepin and Sainz, halted that. He could somehow get into the points, but I think he's going to be probably finishing around 13th or 12th. And you've got to think there's some also pretty quick drivers that are starting outside the points, outside the top 10, that are pretty likely to get points, of course, with Tsunoda and Sergio Perez probably going to go into the points.
Yeah. And as well with another world champion, of course, on the grid, Fernando Alonso qualifying 9th. What are... Again, like you said, very quick drivers behind in Perez and Tsunoda, quick cars. But what would you say the chances of Alonso scoring points is? I'd have to say it's at best 30%.
Yeah. I mean, if anyone can score points in that car, it's really only Fernando Alonso. He might sneak 9th or 10th place. Obviously, Alpine certainly don't have the best car in the midfield. They don't have one of the strongest cars like they did last year, of course, when they were Renault with Daniel Ricardo. So it's going to be difficult for Alonso, but yeah, if anyone can, Fernando can.
Yeah, that is absolutely the case. Amazing performance yesterday, as I showed in my race preview. The stats, I think, behind his great performance was really shown because the Renault down the straights looked quite slow compared to last year. Probably the slowest power unit wise out of all the manufacturers. And then in the even in the middle sector where you need the grip, the Alpine was not really quick at all. So yeah, great job by Fernando Alonso. As currently they're doing the national anthem, I think, and the We Race as one thing on the grid at the moment. As we have 13 minutes to go until the Grand Prix. So let me just quickly read some of the chat. Great to see some of you here. So yeah, we'll quickly read the chat for a couple minutes and then I think we'll get into our predictions for the Grand Prix. Astro Stevo, great to see you, mate, says Mazepin first retirement. It looks likely. I mean, the guy, he had 2 spins in qualifying, 1, and he, even in testing, he looked pretty, it looks pretty tough, to be honest, to drive that car for him with the driving style that he does have. Renard says, I expect Yuki to do well in this race. Won't be surprised if he scores points this race. That's another thing I wanted to ask you, Nib. Yuki Tsunoda, I think, has had a good weekend. Of course, 13th. That's mainly because of the tyre he tried to qualify into Q3 on. Do you think we'll see a great performance where he just charges through the field?
Potentially, because that car is obviously a rocket ship and it's very quick in a straight line. I think Yuki will definitely score points today. I'm pretty confident of that. You know, I don't know. It's so hard because so many drivers could score points, but
it's true.
Yeah, I think Yuki really could get points today. I mean, if there's lots of drivers scoring points, of course, there's 20 of them. But realistically, drivers that could potentially score points, there is a lot of drivers that could be in the points. You know, we say 14, 15 cars that could realistically get some points. I think he might need a little bit of luck with, say, some retirements above if he wants to get like a really decent result in the top 8. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. But I think Yuki can do it.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he's impressed a lot so far in his Formula 1 career. Showed very good pace, and I think even in Q1 he was faster than Gasly. So if he did get into the top 10 yesterday, I would have been very interested to see what he could have done. I think he probably would have ended up qualifying in the top 7 or 8 on the grid, which would have, and if he did get to start on medium tyres, would have set him up for a great Grand Prix, really. But with about 10 minutes to go until the race gets underway, I think we should get into the predictions. Now, the predictions I'm going for are very full on. I've gone and predicted what I think the entire field is going to be, and I've also gone for retirements as well. So let me just quickly get into that. And also, guys, make sure in the chat to let us know your predictions as well for, of course, race win. Who do you think will finish on the podium? And what do you think the top 10 will be at the end of the Grand Prix today? So let me get into mine. So this is my prediction for the race. Yes, I am going Max Verstappen to win the Grand Prix. From Lewis Hamilton in second, Valtteri Bottas third, then Gasly fourth. I think he'll use the medium tyres very well. Perez fifth. I think Red Bull do have the slightly quicker car. So I think that'll really help Perez get through the field. Ricardo 6th, Yuki Tsunoda, I'm going P7, and then Carlos Sainz 8th, Norris 9th, and Raikkonen 10th, and then non-points, of course, finishing the race but not in the points, I think will be Alonso, Giovinazzi, Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. And then your retirements, quite notable, I think it will be Ocon, the 2 Aston Martins of Vettel and Stroll, and Charles Leclerc. I'm going a bit ambitious on the retirements there, but I think, to be honest, if Leclerc does finish the Grand Prix, it's probably going to be either 6th, 7th, or 8th place. I don't see him having the pace to beat Gasly. And if Perez does have a clean start and gets through nicely, I think Perez will be able to beat Charles Leclerc in the Grand Prix today. Now, Nib, I'm not going to ask you for the entire field, but Can I get a top 10?
Oh, geez, you're pushing to the top 10. You get a top 5.
Okay.
Yeah, top 5. Okay, so, yeah, winning the Grand Prix, no surprise with my prediction. I'm going with Max Verstappen to win the Grand Prix. Then I'll go second with Lewis Hamilton. I'll go third with Pierre Gasly. I think fourth is going to be Charles Leclerc. And then I'm going to go fifth. Oh, I really don't know about this one. You know what? I'm going to back my boy in. We're going to go Daniel Ricciardo in fifth.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you were right, but to be honest, you could have gone for anything and I would have said that. Because there is anyone I'd say from 4th to 14th can finish in 4th place, if that makes any sense. That's how close it is. But there you go. Those are my predictions and Nib's predictions for you. So now, in the chat, again, let us know who is winning the race in your opinion, who's going to finish on the podium, and what, if you can, give us a top 10, then make sure to do so right now in the live chat. So, let me just have a quick look to see. Astro Stevo says Hamilton to win from Danny Rick second, Leclerc third. What a podium that would be. For Perez, Gasly, Norris, Sainz, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Ocon. Irie says Verstappen win. Mike says Verstappen to win from Louder and Louder. I think he means Mercedes and Mercedes. Mazepin, I think someone said Mazepin will spin or something like that. Go Gasly, got in the chat. Vettel in the points. There's someone. I will say, if Vettel can get points, that would be a phenomenal drive because, again, he's not had that much time in the car, hasn't really been able to get a consistent run in the car, which I think explains a lot his single lap pace from yesterday, even though he was affected by yellow flags. I think he really has been hampered a lot by the lack of reliability by Aston Martin, but if he was to get points, even if there were 3 or 4 retirements, that would be a pretty good drive and hopefully give him some confidence going into the rest of the season, despite the Aston Martin car not quite being where they want it to be. Enzo says Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Ricardo, Gasly, Leclerc, Vettel. Let me see if there's any other here. If I can. Mazepin will cause a safety car. Probably. That's from the Iceman. That is probably true. Again, has been spinning off a lot in the during the weekend and also during testing as well. Youssef says Verstappen first, Leclerc second. Got some people wishing McLaren to get a surprise win. Don't think it will happen this weekend.
Please.
Blade says he thinks Bottas will win from Verstappen second, Hamilton third, then Ricardo, Perez, Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Gasly, and Yuki Tsunoda. Got someone saying there, I think someone just said Perez in the top 3. If Bottas, that's another thing. If Bottas has a problem, let's say Valtteri Bottas retires from the Grand Prix and Gasly's not as quick as we thought he would be, I don't see why Perez can't get up there. I mean, I've gone from P5, and that's with, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas finishing the Grand Prix and then Gasly finishing 4th. So if Perez is even quicker than I think, and of course, his race pace is great, his tyre management's great, so he should be a lot stronger in the Grand Prix than he was in qualifying. As well, another thing to look out for is when it comes to Perez's overtaking is, remember, in the final sector, Sergio Perez this weekend has been really, really strong. So, that is also something to look out for, again, when he possibly makes overtakes. You just put that picture back on screen as we're 4.5 minutes to go. Cannot wait for this Grand Prix. Let me just read out some more comments before we get on to setting everything up. By the way, I think a couple of things I need to say, actually, before we get onto the race, is one, Nib might not last the whole stream due to possible internet trouble. Hopefully, though, you'll last most of the race, mate. That'd be great if we could get to that.
Yeah.
And then, as well, as it says at the top of the description, we are not showing live footage for obvious reasons, because that'd be clear copyright infringement. So that's not what we are doing here. What we're doing is I'm going to have graphics on screen. I'll update it as much as I can to give you guys a visual confirmation of what the order is on whatever lap. Of course, I'll have a lap counter as well. And what me and Nib are going to do is provide basically a radio commentary of what is going on. So that is what this is. And again, a watch along. So if you are watching the race, then again, watch along with us. And as well, if for any reason, I said this yesterday, I'll say it again, if for any reason we get copyright struck, like I said yesterday, if it happens, it happens. Of course, we're not breaking the rules. We're sticking to the rules. We're not breaking any laws or anything like that. This is completely fair use. Nothing wrong here. But if it does happen, then, you know, well, that's what happens. Of course, I'll go through the appeal process after and all of that. But if it does happen, then it happens. So just want to say that in case anyone thinks, you know, I'm going to be having a gigantic panic attack or anything. Of course, I'll be disappointed if it happens. But, you know, we're just going to commentate our hearts out, basically. And hopefully everything goes fine. But we are, 2.5 minutes away. So I think I'll get some graphics ready for this Grand Prix. And I'm sure in a moment they'll show the wind speed, which quite high. I think you said, Nib. Is it 15, 16 kilometers an hour?
They showed it at 4 kilometers now, but it's very gusty.
Right. I think yesterday it was quite windy as well.
It's gotten windier and it's turned around.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite interesting to see how it plays out. Of course, DRS is going to be super, super powerful down the main straight, more than likely. So yeah, hopefully we get lots and lots of overtaking. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, this track is pretty OP for the DRS overtakes. So we are going to get lots of overtaking in this Grand Prix. I've no doubt about it. Even in boring Bahrain Grand Prix with DRS, we've had plenty of overtaking. So we're definitely going to get plenty of that, especially, again, in that midfield pack. But as they go through the starting grid on the TV broadcast, I'll go through it here. By the way, the race has not officially started yet, so I'll just change that on the screen to 0. So the race has not officially got underway. Will do in about 2 or 3 minutes. So the grid, as you can see on the left-hand side, it is Max Verstappen on pole from Lewis Hamilton 2nd, and Bottas 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Gasly 5th, Ricardo 6th, and then Norris 7th, Sainz 8th, Alonso 9th, and Stroll 10th. And then from P11 to P19 is Perez, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Russell, Ocon, Latifi, Mick Schumacher, Nikita Mazepin, and then last, and starting from the pit lane, the Aston Martin of Sebastian Vettel. That's the only change on the grid compared to what happened in what the qualifying results were. If you missed, the reason Vettel had a penalty was because he, I think, went too fast under yellow flags. The end of qualifying 1, as they're just shown on the screen, Raikkonen and Alonso both made their Formula 1 debut 20 years ago at the 2001 Australian Grand Prix, and I'm disappointed I didn't mention that myself, because it is true. 20 years ago, those two debuted in the same Grand Prix, and Raikkonen, in fact, in his first Grand Prix, finishing the points as well in 6th place. But,
yeah, okay, so everyone outside of the top 10 is starting on the mediums, except for Russell, Ocon, and Latifi, who are going to start on the soft compound of tyre.
Right, so those drivers, obviously, for obvious reasons, are going to go aggressive to try and be in the battle somehow. But yeah, I think the best race strategy today is definitely to start on the medium. What you go to after that, though, is a bit iffy. You could go to another set of mediums and then end the race on soft compound tyres if you can really get a far way into the Grand Prix. Might see some hard compound tyres out there later on. We'll have to see. But yeah, as Nib said, so the only medium tyre runners in the top 10 are Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas and Gasly. And then outside the top 10, they just hid it away just then on the TV broadcast. But it's Perez, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, and then I think Schumacher, Mazepin and Vettel.
All right. We got to make sure. All right, it's just gone. We're underway with the formation lap.
Yeah, well, my formation lap got underway probably about 5 seconds, I think, before you.
All right.
So, the formation lap is underway. And, yeah, they're showing on the screen. So if you start on the soft, the ideal strategy, they're saying, is to go on the medium and then to go onto the hard compound. But if you start on the medium, do a 2-stop by going from medium to medium and then on the hard compound of tyre. I think last year the hard compound was used quite a bit. I think the year before, though, it wasn't really at all. So, interesting to see if the hard is used as frequently as we think it will, as they're about halfway through the lap at the moment. Are these?
Well, I'll tell you what, Chaz. I'm in the exact same predicament where I was yesterday. I am certainly very close to having some excitement piddle. I am absolutely pumped. I'm absolutely pumped for this race to get underway as the driver's just heading up to turn 11.
Yeah, Hamilton.
I can't bloody wait.
Leclerc, and now half the field going through. And yeah, it's going to be, hopefully, a fireworks of a start. And we get some surprises as they're showing the pit walls of McLaren and Ferrari. Those two teams most likely going to be in a close fight today. And then they're showing Horner as Max Verstappen comes towards the end of this formation lap. So, Max Verstappen, first pole position ever for him in Bahrain. Red Bull's first pole in Bahrain since 2012. And back in 2012, when they got pole, they won the Grand Prix. But can they do that again? Can Max Verstappen, as the wind speed, 20.1 kilometers an hour, it just showed there. If Max Verstappen is to fight for the championship, then he does need to have a good first early Grand Prix and preferably win the Grand Prix, of course. As also great to see some fans in the grandstand there. As Sergio Perez is out on the formation lap, stopped on the side of the road, and Perez is out. I'm assuming, for the very thing we mentioned, Nib, he has problems with his car. A power unit problem, most likely, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, they replaced the control electronics and the energy store before the race, and yeah, that is a disastrous start to his Red Bull career for Sergio Perez. And, well, yeah, they're going to have to abandon the start. That means we're going to have one lap scrubbed off because, well, we can't start with Sergio Perez's car there, that's for sure.
Well, no indicator at the minute that is the case. I agree with you. We should have an aborted start. And there you go, aborted start. Another formation lap because of Sergio Perez's stopped car on the side of the road. What an awful first Grand Prix weekend for him. Gets his move to Red Bull and it couldn't have gone any worse for him. He's trying to get going again, but I don't think he will. From there,
he's got the steering wheel back on, which it was completely switched off beforehand.
That is a positive, and he does get it going again, but will it be working? Probably not.
He'll have to. Of course, you have to go in the pit lane.
Yeah, definitely. But if he's had a problem on the formation lap that quickly, I don't see how he can do the Grand Prix like that. Because the formation lap, it's not like they're flying around the lap. So I think he is most likely out of this Grand Prix. Let me just update the order before the race gets underway, because obviously F1 behind Perez now inherits his position. So you've got now Giovinazzi as the highest placed runner outside the top 10 on fresh medium tyres, as Perez yet will start at the end of the pit lane. I'd be amazed if he finished this race, especially in the points, because, yeah, he must still have some sort of gremlin. And the steering wheel just completely shut off through turn 12. Just turned off.
Wow.
And then cruised to a stop, and then, I'm guessing, just did the old Control-Alt-Delete, and then got going again. So, I mean, I hope he gets going and he can race, but I'd be surprised if he can get through the race, wouldn't you say, realistically?
Well, it's going to be take 2 of the Sakhir Grand Prix of last year. He started at the back, basically. Well, basically, he is starting at the back in the pit lane. Who knows? He might get through the race, but yeah, that's at least he's got back up and running, and he still has a chance in this Grand Prix. But yeah, geez, not a great start for Sergio Perez. That's for sure. That's some voodoo sort of stuff going on with that second Red Bull car. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, the curse has continued at Red Bull, as Max Verstappen now, as you said, for take 2, will come onto his starting spot on pole position, and hopefully we do get underway this time. And hopefully, one thing that doesn't happen is a safety car on the first lap, which has been quite common around this track, where we've had an accident causing a safety car straight away, even in the F2 races at times. But yeah, we are underway in just a moment here in Bahrain, as Vettel will now line up at the very back of the grid, that's starting on the grid, but he won't be last now because Perez will be starting from the pit lane. So that's at least something positive for Sebastian, as he pulls across to take his grid position behind the 2 Haas F1 cars. So we've waited a long time for this, but lights out in 2021, but it is just seconds away, and we have 5 lights in Bahrain, and lights out and away we go. And Max Verstappen looks as though he's got a decent start, but Lewis Hamilton gets in his slipstream, pulls to the outside. Can Lewis Hamilton go around the outside? No, he cannot. Leclerc down the inside of Valtteri Bottas. Bottas gets away fine, and then Leclerc is in 4th place, but we'll get a run on Bottas. Gasly is behind in 5th. Looks as though everyone's got away kind of in the order they were in, as there's a car in the background that's gone off the track, a Haas car. Not as bad as the other Haas car of last year. A Charles Leclerc up to 3rd place, is he? Yes, he is. Charles Leclerc up to 3rd.
That was Mazepin. That was Mazepin in the wall.
So Mazepin, I think everyone predicted that, and it is the case, as the 2 McLarens are wheel to wheel, and I think it's Norris. Yes, it is. Norris just about ahead of Ricardo. Still side by side, though. Don't make contact. They won't, but they are still side by side. Gasly is still in P5 as safety car. Just as I said, let's hope there's not a safety car. There's a safety car. But it is Norris up into P6, I believe. And yet, everyone said it, didn't they, Nib? Mazepin's going to be the first one out. And literally, exit of turn 2, he's out of the Grand Prix, isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's... Wow. What an absolute disastrous debut Nikita Mazepin has had. Now, he's literally just going to be called Nikita Mazepin the whole entire season. You know, I think everyone is well and truly behind that. He may have... I assume he's just going to have spun the rears up like we're seeing a couple of drivers do. Kimi, of course, had a spin here in free practice 2, although he hasn't quite totaled the car like Mazepin has here. Let's hopefully get a replay soon. Certainly not quite yet, but yeah, Verstappen in the lead.
Yep, Verstappen in the lead, and then you've got Charles
Sorry, I was
Leclerc.
listening to his radio. He was saying that there was something weird on the throttle in the first couple of corners. I assume it's probably going to be nothing, but geez, I'm sure Red Bull and Honda fans in general will have their hearts in their mouths at the moment.
They definitely will, because after such a great qualifying, that is the last thing they need. So the top 10 on lap 2 out of 56, we are under safety car conditions, as we said. The top 10, Verstappen is leading from Hamilton second, Leclerc third, ahead of Bottas, then Gasly fifth, then Norris sixth, Ricardo seventh, Alonso up to eighth, Stroll ninth, Carlos Sainz has had a poor start, down to P10. Kimi Raikkonen, what a start, up 3 positions. Also, another great start I can see in the order is Sebastian Vettel. From 19th up to 14th, I believe that is, as we're seeing a replay of the start. I'll let you take us through this, Nib.
All right, well, just remember a couple of seconds. Right, here we go. Yeah, so Verstappen got a very good start. Hamilton, of course, gaining pretty quickly in that slipstream. Perfectly defended, didn't even give him a sniff. Ricardo ahead of Norris at that stage. But I think that's where it really starts. Ricardo sort of gets a bad exit out of 3. And then through 4, Lando Norris goes around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo, I believe. That is. As now we're on board with Nikita Mazepin.
Oh, dear.
Oh my goodness. He's just losing the rear and he's just lost it on the curb. That is just the biggest rookie mistake you could possibly see. Wow. That was abysmal by Nikita Mazepin. Yeah. Certainly not the way that he wanted to start. As you can see, he's already losing the rear end. And, there's certainly no contact as Mick went completely around the outside of him. As we go, Mazepin in the wall. And he's out on the back of the motorbike. And, Haas, of course, they don't actually have their proper car here this weekend. That will be coming for Imola, but geez, as we're now on board with Vettel up the inside of turn 1 there's a little contact there with Yuki Tsunoda. How's that not giving Yuki Tsunoda a puncture? That's quite hefty contact. As he's up into 14th.
Yeah, he is. Great start, though, even if there might be some damage there. Great start by Sebastian Vettel as Perez has come into the pits for another set of tyres. Possibly a new steering wheel as well, I don't know. But safety car is ending at the end of this lap. I still haven't completed the order because they're not showing the full order on the screen. I do have, I think, the first 12. So I'm hoping they show it in a minute instead of just showing safety car ending. But yeah, Nikita Mazepin, of course, 20th because he is out of the Grand Prix. And then... yeah, they're not showing the order annoyingly at the minute, so I can't put what the order is. I know Sebastian Vettel is in 14th place, but I don't know who's in 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th at the minute, which is really annoying. I don't know why they do this. Just show the order. How is anyone new watching going to know who's where? All they know is the safety car's coming in, which is great, but we don't just want to know that. We want to know who is where, so we know who to look out for. And there you go. So, Ocon is in 13th position, as Verstappen will get us underway in a moment. And then it's Tsunoda in 15th, and then Russell, Latifi, Schumacher, and Perez. Now, what will Max's restart be like? Can he get that perfect restart, weaving about, really waiting quite a while? And now, does he let it go through the final corner? No, he doesn't. He's going to keep waiting. Remember, they don't have to, start, because you can't overtake until the start-finish line. I think this is quite stupid, to be honest, from Max Verstappen, because it'll be quite easy for Lewis Hamilton to get straight away a run on him, and that's what's going to happen. As now they start the Grand Prix, lap 4 out of 56, and there is slipstreaming absolutely everywhere. Hamilton round the outside of Max Verstappen. Verstappen, though, holds on just about as Gasly tries to go round the outside of Valtteri Bottas and does not get it, as the two McLarens right behind Pierre Gasly. And a McLaren trying to go right round the outside of Lando Norris. Will he even get Bottas? No, he won't. But what an overtake by Norris. He's done that before to Pierre Gasly a couple of years ago. And he's done it yet again. Gasly's got a front wing failure. He's off the track. Something's happened. I don't know what's happened.
No.
He's made contact with someone and he's off the track and not out of this race, but out of contention for sure. As there's a McLaren, I think, just gone down the inside of Bottas at turn 10, or at least he tried to. But there you go.
That's Lando.
Yep, that was
God.
Lando Norris.
Was that Bottas? Bottas, I think there's a little bit of contact with Bottas there and Lance Stroll at turn 10.
Yep, there might have been. We'll have to see later on. Sergio Perez is getting back nicely through the field. As, it's Hamilton or Verstappen leading by a second from Hamilton, then Leclerc. And a virtual safety car. Jesus Christ. Come on, lads. This is a bit rusty. But yeah, it's Bottas 4th, Norris 5th, and then Ricardo 6th. Oh, that's such a shame, though, Nib, isn't it, for Gasly? He was looking so good, and now he's basically out of contention.
Yeah.
As...
Sorry, I'm just listening to Verstappen's radio. He's saying there's certainly an issue. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but he's saying there's certainly an issue. And also, if you notice that, as I'm not sure if you've seen, Mick Schumacher went spinning around in the background there. So all the Haas drivers are spinning around.
Oh, yep, just seeing that spin. That was that just shows how poor that car is. He was not really going that quickly.
My lord.
But
and also, it looks like there might have been a bit of contact with Gasly and the McLaren.
Yep, it was Daniel Ricardo.
Ricardo.
So as they go into turn 5, just a bit of contact. And yeah, Gasly now in the pits. As we're now back underway on lap, let me just update it, lap 5 out of 56, as we've got Bottas very close behind Charles Leclerc, with Norris very close behind as well, with Verstappen still having pulled out a nice gap. And now DRS, thankfully, is enabled for these drivers. So we're going to get plenty of overtaking, I think, in a moment. As I'm going to try and update the order as quickly as I can before it ends up being completely different. But we've got Alfa Romeo now in the top 10 with Antonio Giovinazzi. And Stroll and Alonso, I've got to say, making very good progress. They're up to 7th and 8th, respectively, as Valtteri Bottas closing in on Leclerc very quickly into the final corner. And surely Valtteri will overtake Leclerc here. The Mercedes is quicker in a straight line and is, of course, the better car. Surely Valtteri gets the position done here. And he pulls to the outside, and Leclerc has nothing to fight with. And Valtteri Bottas is up to 3rd, does go wide, and Leclerc will come back on the exit. Can Charles Leclerc fight this on the exit? Does have DRS. Can Charles Leclerc just go straight round the outside? No. Bottas, though, does lock up. Can Leclerc get him back on the exit? No, he cannot. So, Valtteri Bottas up to 3rd. That's very important for his Grand Prix, because Leclerc clearly does not have a quick car, because Lando Norris now is all over the back of the Ferrari at the moment. And as Perez passes Russell, I think, for 14th place. Perez very quick in the Red Bull, but it looks as though, sadly, Nib, I think we might have a train behind Leclerc in a moment, don't you think?
Yeah, it looks like it. And I must say, full credit to Lando Norris. In his first season in F1, especially the first couple of races, he was criticised for not being perhaps arms out enough. But wow, what a brilliant first couple of laps by Lando Norris. All of the elbows out, even against his teammate. Good to see both of them battling very fairly and cleanly. And quite an important move by Norris to get up into P5. But it seems like Ricardo might be struggling a little bit. But it seems like Verstappen's got an issue with the diff. That's why he is struggling at the moment. as Valtteri Bottas was just told over the radio, as now we're heading down the main straight with Charles Leclerc behind Valtteri Bottas, as Max Verstappen's just set the fastest lap of the race. 1.3 second gap, no moves as Leclerc closes in on Bottas. And perhaps with the strong DRS today, we might just have a bit of a train here behind Bottas, as who knows, Leclerc might be able to stick with Bottas here, and we just have a big DRS train. That could certainly be a possibility, because it's not like the McLarens are dropping off behind, as we're on board here with Pierre Gasly. Just a little replay, yep, and he just gets caught out a little bit by Daniel Ricciardo there, touches the rear of Ricciardo's car with the right-hand side of his front wing, and it all goes off. And here we go, the little contact between Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll. Oh, that is more than a little bit of contact. That's quite a bit of contact at turn 10. A bit audacious move by Sainz, but it looks like they actually got away with not too much damage. But, geez, there's quite a train now as Bottas has escaped the DRS. Yes, a train from 4th all the way back to Leclerc's teammate in 9th. The Carlos Sainz is a bit of a train going on.
Yep, there is. And Leclerc, at the minute, I mean, he's not noticeably all over the track and having no grip and losing the rear end or anything, but he does have a bit of a train behind him. So you do wonder if the Ferrari is struggling a bit on its tyres, as whatever problem Max Verstappen has, it's definitely not slowing him down. Another new fastest lap of 1:35.9 as Norris goes around the outside of Leclerc, I think into turn 1. Leclerc blocks it off very nicely, but Norris will get such a great run as Perez passes Vettel for 13th into turn 1. And Norris will get such a great run up to turn 4. Will he go round the outside again? He's so good at this move. And he'll try it. Leclerc will just force him out. Oh, this is brilliant. Can Norris go round the outside? No, Leclerc holds him off. But there is the hairpin of turn 8 where Norris can maybe try something. No, it's too far behind. But he loves that outside move, doesn't he, Lando Norris?
Yeah, well, it's quite a good line, actually, that outside line there at turn 4. But wow, Lando is, and these McLarens are very, very racy at the moment. You'd think it's only a matter of time before Norris can get past Leclerc, perhaps down into turn 1 this time. As we're seeing a little bit of a replay, as Norris was complaining that Leclerc ran him off of the road, which, yeah, didn't exactly give him the space, but it was fair enough. There wasn't any contact. That was absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But, you know, of course, you're a racing driver, you're going to complain. But as Bottas has certainly pulled away from Leclerc, and yeah, so we're about to head into the final corner.
Yep, and we are now on lap 9 out of 56, and I would be very surprised if Charles Leclerc could stay ahead of Lando Norris on this lap, because Lando in the slipstream, DRS wide open, and Leclerc doesn't even defend. He has nothing to defend with, as Lando Norris goes to the inside of Stroll, dive bombs Alonso into turn 1 and gets the move done. What a move, but Alonso will get the switchback through. And as well, DRS, as Leclerc gets DRS on Norris. Will he go around the outside? I don't think he will. He doesn't seem to have the grip and the tyres right now, as Lance Stroll has kept the position. So what a move by Stroll, dive bombing a 2-time world champion in Alonso. And he's up to P7. What a move that was by Stroll.
That was a very impressive move by Lance Stroll, and it does show that, as we expected, the Alpine certainly isn't exactly the greatest car, but that Aston Martin doesn't look as bad as perhaps we expected, as we're on board here with Sebastian Vettel, who's behind Yuki Tsunoda in 14th position. Of course, Sebastian in 15th, but yeah, it's just the quality of this grid that we've got Vettel, Tsunoda and Perez all in 15th, 14th and 13th at the moment, but I think it's going to be really important for Daniel Ricciardo's race that he can try and close up to the back of Charles Leclerc and get a move done pretty soon. Otherwise, I think he might have Lance Stroll coming towards him. And I'm sure that we're going to have Carlos Sainz versus Fernando Alonso very shortly, as Carlos Sainz is within the DRS of Fernando Alonso. And as we can see here, he's reasonably close, but of course Alonso still well within the DRS of Lance Stroll. As Lance Stroll actually doesn't have the DRS to defend himself, so he could be a little bit vulnerable here into turn 1. But Fernando Alonso a bit too far back as Carlos Sainz really closes up. Sergio Perez, however, trying to get a move done on Esteban Ocon around the outside of turn 1, goes for the switch back through turn 2. Can he get a good run up the hill down towards turn 4? He's got a very, very good run, and that's not even a contest. Even before turn 4, Perez ahead of Ocon. Well, we didn't quite see because they cut away, but we assume that Perez is up into 12th place.
Yeah.
Past Esteban Ocon.
He absolutely is, and moving through the field so quickly, and now he's only just over a second behind Raikkonen. So Perez, in that Red Bull, looking really, really quick and illustrating at the pace of the Red Bull. Max Verstappen, by the way, on lap 10, soon to be lap 11, about 2 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. Bottas third, about 6.5 seconds behind, and Norris is fourth. Norris is about 11.5 seconds behind, so definitely the front two are running away very quickly from the rest of the pack. And as you say, I think with Alonso and Sainz, Carlos Sainz definitely looking eager to actually make some progression in this Grand Prix, as we see a replay of Perez going around the outside of Ocon. And as I said earlier on in the weekend, that Renault power unit in a straight line is struggling, especially compared to the Honda. So it was always going to be very easy into turn 4, which is a shame. But there you go. As Norris, though, even though he has passed Leclerc, interestingly, Charles Leclerc is still hanging on and is only half a second behind. So maybe it's just Norris was faster than Leclerc, because Charles, if he was really dropping off pace-wise, then he should have already been really under threat from Ricardo by now. But he's hanging on quite nicely to the back of Lando Norris here, as Sergio Perez is now within half a second of Kimi Raikkonen, but Raikkonen half a second behind Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo, so it might be a bit hard at the minute for Perez to make any more moves through the field. Saying that, into turn 10, he's positioning a move, he's going to do the switch back, and he should get, oh no, he got a bit of oversteer, so it'll be a bit hard now to get a great run to turn 11, so he'll have to wait a few more corners. But Perez is looking certainly quick. I just wonder what in clean air his pace is, but it looks as though, as I said, Nib, McLaren versus Ferrari possibly, and even though Leclerc has now dropped a bit behind Norris, definitely Ferrari able to fight McLaren, which is nice to see.
Yeah, well, here we go. Daniel Ricciardo is very close going into the final corner. Will Leclerc have DRS here? He should just about have it. I don't know if he does. Does Leclerc have the DRS there? I don't believe he does. As Ricciardo heading down into turn 1, he's going to try and go around the outside of Charles Leclerc. He's going to go for that lovely, lovely switchback and try get past Leclerc up the hill. Has a little bit of an oversteer moment out of 1. But Ricardo now up the hill with the DRS in the slipstream, as we're looking at Fernando Alonso for no reason. We want to see the overtake, for goodness sake. But yeah, Alonso's in the pits. I don't even know what tyres, as Leclerc's still ahead of Ricardo. Fantastic, FLM.
Certainly fantastic, as they cut away at precisely the wrong moment. But yeah, he did not get the move done, did Ricardo. But Alonso, yeah, has... and I'm sure will now trigger pit stops everywhere, because he was up in 8th place and not too far behind Norris and Leclerc. So should now get a flurry of pit stops on just lap 12 out of 56. So let me just update some of the order there. And yeah, Perez now up into P11 and still right behind the 2 Alfa Romeos, and he will be losing so much time behind those cars who are clearly slower in basically every aspect. But Alonso has dropped to, 17th? So, yeah. Nice gap there for Alonso to put in a banging in-lap, or out-lap, sorry. As Lando Norris pits in the McLaren, so does Charles Leclerc, so does Lance Stroll. So here we go. Let's see where Alonso will come out in respect to them, as Norris, I think, had a slow-ish pit stop.
Right.
Yeah, there was
the front right was a bit slow.
Yeah, definitely. As Leclerc and Stroll get going just about fine. Giovinazzi as well has come into the pits. Interestingly, Giovinazzi, though, started on the mediums, so clearly his mediums weren't working that well. As Alonso definitely gained a lot because now he's within a second of Leclerc as they all come out of the pits. But they are quite a bit far down at the moment, of course, because they're pitted. But I'll update some of the order and let you comment on the action just for a moment, Nib.
Yeah, well, good aggressive strategy there by Alpine to trigger all of that. And, with that, Alonso's gotten himself back ahead of Stroll and much closer to Charles Leclerc. It'll be interesting to see what Daniel Ricciardo does, whether or not he decides to come in or decides to go a little bit longer and stay perhaps with the leaders. As I was seeing, the lap times between Hamilton and Verstappen are very, very close, as we've got some team radio from Hamilton, as Bono's telling him it won't be long until they come in to do their pit stop. And here we go. We've got some hard tyres as Lewis Hamilton is coming in to make a pit stop. So we're watching Kimi Raikkonen here. And there we go. It looks like a pretty solid stop for Mercedes. 2.9 seconds for the first race. That's not too bad. As Daniel Ricciardo is also coming into the pit lane now, as the cameraman needs to get out of the way there as he runs across the pit lane. As Ricardo goes on to the medium compounded tyres. Well, that's a little bit slow again by the McLaren. 2.9, but that will be just fine as everyone else is in as well. Kimi and Ocon also. Well, let's see where Ricardo comes out. Yeah, and he's certainly lost out here. He's going to be behind. Is he going to be behind Lance Stroll? As he comes out behind the Alpine Fernando Alonso, but just out ahead of Lance Stroll. As we've got Nicholas Latifi and Charles Leclerc battling there into turn 4. Ricardo defending from Stroll into turn 4. Stroll trying to go around the outside, but Ricardo just about manages to hold on. But yeah, Ricardo is certainly the loser from those early pit stops triggered by Alonso.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. Max Verstappen, I'm sure, on this lap is giving it everything because this in-lap could easily make or break his Grand Prix as he now comes through. He's got a car ahead of him. And this isn't Perez, is it? No, it is Sergio Perez, I'm pretty sure. Is Perez? Yeah, it is. Max Verstappen's not pitted. Perez. That is a massive surprise. Max Verstappen is not pitted. I think they made a mistake there because if they had pitted now, they might have just been able to cover that undercut off. So that might cost them later on. I'm not sure about that.
Well, Brundle was just yelling about how Hamilton has gone so much faster in the middle sector alone. So yeah, this is a very interesting decision. They're perhaps hoping that Sainz can hold him up as that's it in the fast lap. Lando Norris was a 135 too, and we were watching Verstappen before he was in the 36s. So yeah, wow, Hamilton quite comfortably gets up past the inside of Carlos Sainz there. Now he's going to have free air, and I'm pretty sure it's usually about 23 seconds for a pit stop, and that would mean that Hamilton is going to jump Verstappen.
Yeah, Red Bull have made a massive mistake. Unless they're going to do something completely different on strategy, Red Bull, for now, at this point of the Grand Prix, have bottled it because they had to get in a lap after Hamilton because the undercut in Bahrain, everyone knows, is massive. So I cannot believe. And honestly, if they're going to pit him now, there's no point because he's lost the lead. They might as well just try and go even longer into the Grand Prix.
Yeah, perhaps they are going to try and do that. But let's see. Is he going to pit in this lap? No, he's not. He stays out. So perhaps Verstappen is happy with his tyres. But wow, let's see. That's pretty interesting. It's rare that Red Bull would allow that to happen, but perhaps Verstappen's complaining about the wind making it super hard for him at the moment. Of course, those gusts with the tailwind So the headwind into turn 1 as Carlos Sainz comes into pits from 4th. Hamilton's just set the fast lap with 1:34.0. And we're just looking at the comparisons before Hamilton pit, and Verstappen was doing a 36.5. So let's see this Ferrari pit stop. That was a pretty solid pit stop by Ferrari. 2.7 seconds. Also, Yuki Tsunoda is in the pit lane now, as Daniel Ricciardo has got himself ahead of Fernando Alonso and missed that across all of that squabbling. As Sainz has also lost out a little bit there. He's lost some time to Stroll. And Ricciardo's lost 4 seconds to Leclerc. So that's, with Ricciardo, certainly the loser. And there you go. See, Verstappen nearly in the 37. So, yeah, Red Bull are just going to stay out here, and let's see what they do. Perhaps they go extend this stint and go onto the medium compounded tyre.
The only thing they can do is, if they go aggressive and go on softer tyres, as Vettel here being passed by Norris for P5, the only thing they can do is go onto a softer compound and get aggressive and try and win that way, or do a one-stop. But Mercedes, is, with Lewis Hamilton, are on the hard compound tyre, so they're going to be looking very good. Maybe not to the very end, but certainly for another 30 laps, as Valtteri Bottas pits on lap 17, and also on the hard compound of tyre. And Valtteri he's going to come out behind Sergio Perez, but he will come out in a lot of clean air in P4. And also Bottas told outlap will be critical. And if Max pits, or if Max doesn't pit in the next couple of laps, he could be behind Bottas even, because
he could be jumped by Bottas.
Yeah. So as Vettel has a go back at Charles Leclerc, he'll definitely want to beat Leclerc here, even though Leclerc's on much fresher tyres. But Leclerc will get back ahead, and Charles Leclerc back in position there, as Lance Stroll is under threat. Well, I think Stroll has just passed Alonso, and now Alonso,
Stroll has passed Alonso,
trying to have a go back, and it cannot get it done. And I think we're now seeing evidence that Alpine is just simply not as quick as the McLaren, the Ferrari, and even the Aston Martin. So starting to struggle is Fernando Alonso, and has Carlos Sainz next up behind. And then the Alfa Romeos, I'm sure, will have something to say later on. But yeah, Verstappen leads, has not pitted yet. Saying that, he's about to come in. Let's see what he goes on to.
He's going to be about 6 to 7 seconds behind Hamilton, it would be.
And another set of medium tyres. So that's them committing to a two-stop Grand Prix.
Well, of course, the Mercedes are on the hards.
Exactly. So, do you think Mercedes can get to the end with Lewis Hamilton on a hard compound?
You would have to assume that they would get to the end on the hard compounded tyre, otherwise they wouldn't have gone on to it.
Well, if Red Bull win this race, they've given themselves a very hard way of doing it, because Max, if Hamilton's going to the end, then Max has to pass Lewis probably twice on track, because he'll have to pass Lewis, build some sort of a gap, so then when he pits again, he can close it back down again. Again, that's if Hamilton only does one pit stop. But for the moment, on lap 18 out of 56, about a quarter of the way through the Bahrain Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton is in the official lead as Valtteri Bottas is about to pass Sergio Perez. Perez will defend though, and Bottas surely will send it around the outside, and he does. Perez has not pitted yet on his medium compound of tyre. Yeah, in the official lead, Lewis Hamilton on the hard compound tyre, Max Verstappen second on the medium, Bottas third on the hard, and then Perez fourth, has not pitted yet on the medium. But, well, the only way Max can win is if in the next 38 laps he basically pushes like it's qualifying, because if he doesn't pass Lewis Hamilton in this stint, I don't see how he beats Hamilton, because I don't see him catching 23 seconds in the final 15 to 20 laps, unless he puts in an absolutely amazing performance, which he is capable of. But at the current point, wouldn't you say, Nib, it's seeming unlikely that Max is going to win this unless he just drives the wheels off of that car until the very end.
Yeah, and Verstappen was complaining about those diff problems he's been having all race long. Once again, as we've got Daniel Ricciardo here getting past Sebastian Vettel into 7th place, and he hasn't lost too much time to Charles Leclerc there. Still about 4.4 behind, which was the gap as he came out of the pit lane. So that's not too bad. Now Ricciardo will have to focus ahead to get up to the back of Charles Leclerc. But yeah, I'm just a bit puzzled by Red Bull's decision here. I am. Maybe they think that the hards won't last to the end. But still, as you said, Verstappen's going to have to catch up to the back of Hamilton and pass him. Of course, we're still very, very early in this Grand Prix, but it's going to be super interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it definitely will. The only hope for Red Bull is that Mercedes pit again, and Max, because he's on the softer compound, he'll have to pit earlier anyway, I assume. So that's the only hope for Red Bull, is that Max can undercut them past Lewis. But Max first needs to get within range to perform an undercut, because at the moment he's about 6 to 6.5 seconds, I think, behind Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, Red Bull, unless Mercedes pit again, I think Red Bull have made a massive mistake, as Lance Stroll is about to, in a moment, pass his teammate Sebastian Vettel, as we're on now lap 20 out of 56. And Vettel...
It's a bit weird that Vettel just didn't let him go into the final turn, to be honest, there.
Yeah, he'll let him go now, though, as Alonso is under pressure massively from Carlos Sainz, who now wants to depose Alonso. As Alonso just dives down the inside of Vettel. Vettel losing positions everywhere, of course. Hasn't pitted yet, so that's why that is the case. He'll get a good run on Alonso, though, to turn 4. And the Aston Martin a lot quicker in the straight line. Vettel down the inside. Will he try and fight this? Yes, he will. Charges down the inside. Can Alonso get the better run out and get past? Oh, they almost make contact. Will Alonso dive down the inside? No, he will not. This is great. This is exactly what we wanted to see between these two. Fighting on track for position. As Sainz also desperately trying to get past.
Yeah, that's great stuff between Vettel and Alonso. Vettel absolutely, even though he hasn't pitted, he's absolutely given everything his Sebi boy. And staying ahead of Alonso, as Carlos Sainz is all the way, he's all over the back of the Alpine of Fernando Alonso. As Toto said, hunt him down, Valtteri. So, and as you can see, Bottas is only 3 seconds behind, but Verstappen is closing in on Hamilton. That gap when he come out was 7.1 seconds. It's now 5.2. So Verstappen certainly is closing in on Lewis Hamilton. But Valtteri Bottas, geez, if Toto Wolff's given him the orders, hunt him down.
Yeah, well, you know what that means. As I think we might get 3 wide down it on lap 21, down to turn 1. Alonso down the inside. Will Carlos Sainz go for a move on Vettel? He's going to hang back and just wait out and see what happens here. But they're going to be 3 wide possibly on the exit of turn 2. Sainz gets past Vettel and we're not going to run straight away on Alonso. And surely Carlos Sainz will pull right around the outside and go past Alonso. He will, and Vettel back again up the inside of Alonso. And he will keep the position. That is so good from Vettel. Will not give
just
up.
Just remember, Sebastian Vettel can't race.
Yeah, exactly. What an absolutely brilliant fight this is. Vettel, of course, even though he will be losing lap time doing that, it will help him later on when he pits. I assume Sebastian is in a one-stop race, so when Sebastian pits later on, this battle will help him be closer to Alonso, because, of course, he's holding him up a treat. As a replay, I'll let you take us through this, Nib.
Yeah, I'm just getting the replay now as we're on board with Carlos Sainz into turn 1 as Alonso goes up the inside of Vettel. Sainz trying to make it up the inside of Sebastian Vettel. A little bit of a lock-up by Fernando Alonso going deep into turn 1, compromising his run out of the corner a little bit. Sainz gets a brilliant exit out of 2 and up the hill towards turn 4, and he gets it done as, who's that? Is that Sergio Perez? He's just got past Fernando Alonso. Now he's looking to get Sebastian Vettel into the final corner. is he going to get it done? Sebastian Vettel will give him the room. He's like, I will take your DRS. Thank you very much. I can't remember where the activation point is actually, or the detection point. I assume, no, Perez gets the DRS. So that's very cheeky by Perez, but Vettel will be fine from Alonso, I think. Or is Alonso going to launch it up the inside? No, he's not close enough. Vettel with a massive lockup, and he goes wide just after I've said, sarcastically that he can't race, meaning that he can race. A little bit of an unforced error there by Vettel, and he's down behind Kimi Raikkonen 12th, and I assume we're going to see Vettel come into the pits, as that was a lock-up by Kimi Raikkonen to turn 4, and Verstappen is certainly closing in on Lewis Hamilton. The gap's now 3.8 seconds, and Valtteri is pretty much sticking with him. Valtteri just under 4 seconds behind Verstappen, so fair play, as we're just getting a replay now of Vettel's lock-up into turn 1. A bit of an unfortunate mistake by Seb, but he's under pressure. As you can see, the brakes on that Alpine. Red. They were very, very warm. I was trying to find the right word for a second, then I couldn't think of it for some reason. But here we go. The AWS, Verstappen in striking distance in 6 laps. Chaz.
Well, let's hope so, because of course when these two go wheel to wheel on track, it tends to be incredibly dramatic. But that was great to see from Vettel, and I hope this season him and Alonso can have some great battles, because it looks as though they're basically in the same part of the grid pace-wise with their certain cars. So yeah, that is just so great to see. But Max Verstappen is, as you say, closing in, as Raikkonen now up into 10th place. As, Kimi Raikkonen, and I think that is on pure merit as well. He, F1 ahead of him has pitted. So Kimi Raikkonen, at the minute, is in a points-paying position. Great pace from Raikkonen, as I predicted, has been so great around this circuit in the past. So many podiums when he was in good enough cars, of course. So, great there by Raikkonen, as I think we're going to have another illustration of just how slow the Renault is in a straight line this season, because Raikkonen on the hard compound tyre, interestingly, that'll help him later on. Raikkonen in up to 10th place, and we have who's this? Yuki Tsunoda on the hard compound tyre, now trying to pass Sebastian Vettel. But one thing I will say, Nib, is Lewis Hamilton on the hard compound tyres. He's being caught, but his pace is really strong considering Max is on fresher mediums.
Yeah, once Verstappen got that gap to about 4 seconds, it's stabilised over the last few laps. It really has, and that will be bad news for Red Bull, because we assumed that Mercedes can go to the end of the Grand Prix. And I mean, even if they can't, Verstappen is going to have to pit again, of course, because he's gone medium. So certainly upper hand Mercedes here, as Yuki is getting pretty close to the rear end of Sebastian Vettel here into the final corner. Of course, yet to pit in this Grand Prix, as Yuki is now about to activate the DRS in the proper DRS zone. Unlike pre-season testing, an absolute no contest as he goes up the inside of the 4-time world champion and moves up into 12th. As now the next to probably close up to Sebastian Vettel will be Esteban Ocon, as Sergio Perez there was closing up very much to Carlos Sainz for the battle for 8th.
Absolutely, Perez, you'd expect, again, he's on much fresher tyres and he's in a much faster car. You'd expect him to get through, as long as he doesn't have a problem, he should get up his way up to P4, given his pace, because none of the cars ahead of him have DRS on another car in front. So this should be relatively easy for Sergio Perez to get his way up to 4th place. Lando Norris, though, is, 12 seconds, I think, ahead of Perez, but we do have 30 now. Instead of 32 laps to go, we have 31 laps left. So I think Perez looking great here for 4th place. Very good drive by Sergio on the hard compound of tyre. And yeah, Max Verstappen is not closing the gap really to Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas is not really closing the gap to Verstappen respectively, but right now it looks as though Mercedes are heading for at least a race win, possibly a 1-2 finish, given the pace they're showing on that hard compound of tyres. Sebastian Vettel finally comes in, and he will go to the hard compound and be, I think, very quick towards the end, because he will be on a one-stop strategy, as Perez, round the outside of Carlos Sainz, he goes, and Sergio Perez is up to 8th place. And again, it should be relatively easy for Perez to get his way into 4th place. And if anything happens to the front three, still could be a podium. As
well, what's very clear here is they've got the wrong Red Bull on the correct strategy.
Exactly.
On the hard tyre.
Yep, that is true. Because at least if Verstappen was behind Hamilton, he'd be on fresher tyres and it would be a straight fight to the end, which I think puts Max in an infinitely better position than it does now, where he has to pit again. And if he does pit again, I'm assuming he will go onto the soft tyre, because if he goes onto hard compound tyres, I mean, it's not really going to work at all. So unless Verstappen does a short middle stint, as he's 3.5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton with 30 laps to go, as the gaps out front are all about stable. There's 7 to 8 seconds covering the front three, and then Lando Norris is about or nearly a pit stop behind Valtteri Bottas in his McLaren, as Perez now has designs on Lance Stroll's P7. We'll say Lance Stroll is really driving well, because that Aston Martin is definitely not as quick as P7 where he is currently. So good drive so far from him, as Perez not going to throw it down the inside just yet. As Yuki Tsunoda, let's keep an eye out for him. He is the highest placed AlphaTauri, and probably really the only AlphaTauri left in this Grand Prix. He's also on the hard compound, and he's just passed Fernando Alonso for P11, and I fancy him to get into the points. So,
yeah.
And here we go. Look how far back he is.
Oh my God.
And, well, that was so easy, wasn't it? I mean...
Well, we were talking about how powerful the headwind was into turn 1, but I think that just shows how strong that Honda engine is as well. That was unbelievable. And a very nicely executed move by Yuki Tsunoda, because it's very easy to catch a break there and, muck up the opportunities. Now he'll be trying to catch up to now Kimi Raikkonen for that 1 point in 10th position.
Absolutely.
As Verstappen really is starting to catch Hamilton now. The gap is 2.6 seconds.
Yep, he is now down to 2.5 as we're on lap 27. I'll update the lap counter in just a moment. As Perez now passes Lance Stroll for P7. Just want to make sure I get the order updated as things are starting to stabilise now. As we've got Russell 15th.
So the Perez gets that move done up the inside of Stroll. Perez's pace is really, really strong in this Grand Prix, and he well and truly could be on to finish 4th in this race.
Yeah, you'd imagine so. And then again, if anything happens to the front three, I think Perez is the most likely to capitalise, even though he's only P7 and is still about 13 seconds behind Lando Norris, because he will catch Norris probably before the end of the Grand Prix, given his speed. And it looks as though Perez is on a 1-stop race, and I think Norris is on a 2-stop. So, yeah, Perez looking very good. But let me just update the lap counter briefly. The lap 28 out of 56. So your current order, your top 10. Now, finally, everything is stabilised. Now I can actually have the order as it is. Your top 10, leading the race is Lewis Hamilton by 2 seconds now from Max Verstappen, who is catching quickly, as Nib said. 8/10 on the last lap, Max caught. Bottas is 3rd. 4th is Lando Norris. 5th is Charles Leclerc. 6th is Ricardo. 7th, Perez. 8th, Stroll. 9th is Carlos Sainz. 10th, Kimi Raikkonen. And then finishing the race at the minute, but not in the points, Tsunoda, P11. Alonso, 12th. Ocon, 13th. And then Giovinazzi, Russell, Latifi, Vettel. Gasly is now up to 18th, and then Mick Schumacher 19th. Nib, can I just say, before we get into this battle, the pace of the Haas car does that not alarm you how far behind Mick Schumacher is? I know he's spun, but he is miles behind the Williamses.
No, not really. They don't even have their proper car here. No, it doesn't really. Is my streams actually my feed's just frozen? How dare you, KO Sports?
But
there we go. We're back.
Right, that's all good. Thank God. But yeah, we're now on, or soon to be, lap 29. But yeah, I guess when you say it like that, then maybe it's not a surprise. But I'm just surprised maybe that they're that slow. Because as Lewis Hamilton pits, that was a quick stint on the hard compound tyre. I don't really know what to say to that. Has he gone into another set of hard tyres? Okay, I guess.
Wow.
What do you say to that?
Hamilton was getting caught very quickly by Verstappen. 8/10 lap. Hamilton couldn't go any faster.
But that is a massive surprise, though. Because you would have thought he would have done at least 30 laps on that.
Okay, so Valtteri Bottas's race engineer just told Bottas that they've done it so that that Verstappen can't undercut Hamilton.
I tell you, this race is moving around all over the place. I don't really know. After that pit stop, I don't know what's going to happen now with the front three when it looked like a Mercedes win, possibly. As Lance Stroll has come into the pits, he's gone from medium to hard. I'm going to guess that the hard compound tyre is wearing out just so much more than they expected because, I mean, the stint he did there was basically like a medium tyre stint as Lance Stroll has, pitted, and he is now out in 15th place. So I'm going to guess as, Vettel, just about avoiding an accident. He's now going to go round the outside of Nicholas Latifi, and he should get that move done pretty easily. I'm going to assume Lance Stroll will be going to the end on that compound. As you got Sainz up to 8th, Raikkonen 9th, and then 10th for the moment is Yuki Tsunoda. Let me just update the lap counter. Now on to lap 30 out of 56, and they're just showing a replay of Vettel passing Latifi. Just about avoided an accident and got through. I think Vettel will probably, like we said before the stream, 12th or 13th place is where it looks as though he's going to end up. Probably not a points finish, wouldn't you say?
And it's been a good effort by Vettel. He's been very racy, which is good to say. Good to see. As Lando Norris is 3.4 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc, doing a very good job in P4s. We've got team radio from Lewis Hamilton. I could have kept him there a little longer, I think. And there we go. Bono explaining that it was the danger of the undercut. And Mercedes covering off Red Bull. And that's brilliant by James Vowles and all of them lot at Mercedes to potentially cover them off. But of course, if Verstappen keeps at a solid pace, which he is here, it's about 19 to 20 seconds the gap. So at the moment, Verstappen would still only come about 2 seconds out behind him. So Hamilton will certainly be under threat from Verstappen towards the end of this race, when Verstappen, I assume, would put on a set of the hard compounded tyres. Well, who knows? He could even go on the softs, but I very much doubt that he would do that. As Verstappen is now lapping Mick Schumacher, as Valtteri is in the pits and goes onto the hards as well. A slow tyre, a slow pit stop. Oh, what a nightmare pit stop for Mercedes. They don't like Bahrain in their pit stops. A 10.9 second pit stop for Valtteri Bottas. It's a disaster for Valtteri Bottas. And now that's going to put him behind Charles Leclerc. And Lando Norris, of course. And Daniel Ricardo, maybe?
Not quite. But that definitely puts Valtteri out of contention. I think that's definitely him finishing third now. Don't see how he could possibly get near the Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton fight. because simply that pit stop just cost him way too much time. Looking good for Valtteri. I think that was a good drive up until then, but now he's really just got settled in for third place. Here's a replay. And yeah, right front just wouldn't come off. Refused to come off. They had to jack it up again and then get the tyre on, and he was away. So very disappointing. 10.9 seconds. That's about 8 seconds slower than you would normally want from a pit stop. So yeah, that is very bad for him. But Max Verstappen staying out. Of course, though, he does have to pit again because you have to use 2 different types of tyre compound in a Grand Prix, in a dry Grand Prix. And of course, Bahrain is going to be a dry Grand Prix. So Max Verstappen will have to pit again, but when will he? Lewis Hamilton catching him on the last lap by about 0.7 of a second. Let me just update some of the order quickly. So on lap 32, it's Verstappen from, not Bottas anymore, from Lewis Hamilton, again, catching very quickly. And Hamilton, I think, definitely, now that they've said, as Hamilton 0.4 out in the first, or in sector 3, alone on the last lap, as Perez passes Ricardo, I think. Yes, he does, up to 6th place. I've completely forgot what I was going to say, so I'll let you talk, Nib.
Interesting decision. It really is by Mercedes to cover off the undercut, because we're getting a replay here. Hamilton as he goes just slightly wide at turn 4. I think we described that as the Max Verstappen line. That was certainly the line he was taking during FP1. Maybe not that quite wide even. I assume he might have got affected by a gust of the wind, perhaps. But yeah, Hamilton certainly closing that gap to Verstappen a little bit, but he's going to be very vulnerable once Verstappen pits. Red Bull, of course, are going to extend this stint as Hamilton isn't gaining, huge amounts of time like after the first pit stop. So this is going to be an interesting and very intriguing final stint of this Grand Prix, and we are going to see Verstappen versus Hamilton. We are going to get what we wanted. Bearing any sort of issues with the cars, please don't happen. As now Valtteri Bottas is closing up to the back of Charles Leclerc. As here we go. There we go. Charles Leclerc comes to the pits, and he's going to go onto the hard compounded tyre, as perhaps he can try and undercut Lando Norris. As Daniel Ricciardo comes in as well. He does the exact same thing as Charles Leclerc. Let's see how this pit stop looks for Ferrari. That looks like a very good pit stop for Ferrari. That 2.4 second, that very good indeed. A 3.2 for Ricardo. Average as that promotes Yuki Tsunoda up into 7th. As will Ricardo get out ahead of Stroll? Yes, he will indeed, quite comfortably. As Hamilton set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. Now it's 18.8 seconds between the two of them, but Alonso's got a car issue.
Yep, he has. Very slow on the entry, and I think this is him out of the race. That might explain why he fell back so quickly. And he is. Fernando Alonso is out of the Bahrain Grand Prix. That's a shame. He did drive very well this weekend, but clearly there was an issue because he was falling back so quickly. And after his pit stop, I'm going to assume the car has just completely given up. So Fernando Alonso out, and a tough season, I think, ahead for Alonso because that car does not look good at all because he was, again, losing so many positions in this Grand Prix once he had made his good start. But Lando Norris now pits from 3rd place, and he will go to the end on another set of hard tyres. Decent pit stop. And another slowish pit stop, though. That will cost him a second, as Carlos Sainz, his ex-teammate, goes up to 5th. Carlos hasn't pitted yet, of course. But, yep, Norris will come out in 6th place. So it looks as though Lando Norris has, like he did in 2020 at the same Grand Prix, looks as though he has the front of the midfield all to him as Yuki Tsunoda pits and goes onto the hard compound tyre. So you can see that everyone is trying to finish on that tyre, and it will come down basically to faster cars and also who is on the fresher compound. But let me just update some of the order if I can. So you've got now Valtteri Bottas up to...
And we...
Go on.
Sorry, Chaz, for cutting off. It was a rear brake issue for Fernando Alonso.
Right. Didn't really see any of that on track, but I believe him, of course, because he's not the one to just pull out of a Grand Prix win, especially he wasn't that far off the points. But yeah, disappointing, and especially disappointing reliability-wise, because in testing around the same track, Alpine looked really reliable, but clearly that is not the case in this Grand Prix, as Hamilton still catching Verstappen. If Verstappen pits now, he'll be, 6 seconds behind, won't he?
It will be about 4 to 5 seconds, not quite 6. I mean, if they have a slow stop, as Hamilton certainly is abusing those track limits at turn 4. But Leclerc certainly has closed that gap into Lando and Norris. Of course, Norris had to respond a lap after Leclerc. And the gap is 2 seconds. And here we go. Who's got the best pace on track at the moment? Bottas, Hamilton do. And there we go. See, Verstappen isn't losing an awful amount of time. 0.6 a lap is okay. It's not like he's losing 2 seconds like he was after the first pit stop, which was the main issue. So, yeah, I think at the moment you'd have to say advantage Red Bull. Of course, Verstappen does have to overtake Hamilton, which will be, well, you'd usually say it's very difficult, but with the conditions today and that headwind into turn 1, it shouldn't be an awfully difficult thing to do, as Kimi Raikkonen is chasing down George Russell for P10 in the Bahrain Grand Prix. So I must say that Williams livery, initially when it got leaked, of course, I was not a fan whatsoever, but it's not that bad. It's actually not that bad.
Yeah, it's a decent livery. Initially didn't look that good, but yeah, looking decent. I've got to say Russell is driving so well, because look, he's been out for 21 laps on this compound. So Russell driving very well. I mean, he's not going to finish in the points unless something mental happens, but he should get a decent finish. And this has been a great weekend for him. Another Q2 appearance, of course, yesterday. And he's driving very well today and just capitalising on other people's problems, as Kimi Raikkonen. Considering Raikkonen's on the medium, I'm not sure Raikkonen gets to the end on this compound, because there's still another 20 laps to go. And Raikkonen's done a few laps already, so I think Kimi might be on a 3-stop, to be honest, as Hamilton now 16.5 seconds behind Verstappen. Of course, Max does have to pit again, so it is still advantage Hamilton, as Yuki Tsunoda passes Vettel. Vettel doesn't even fight, and I'm expecting Tsunoda to be very quick, as Raikkonen switches back through turn 2. Can he get the move done? Oh, that was very close to possible contact. Raikkonen will try go around the outside. Will Russell fight it? He does kind of, but Raikkonen has just so much more grip.
They're very close to contact again, just on the entry of turn 4 as well, were they? Now, I must say, we haven't really mentioned it yet. Well, I should talk about this, is that that Mercedes blunder, the pit stop blunder with Valtteri Bottas, has cost him oh so dearly. Because you got to remember, Bottas was, about 6 seconds behind, as, Yuki Tsunoda up the inside of turn 10. That's a very nice move on George Russell, as now Vettel will try and get past George Russell up into turn 11, up the inside, and Sebastian Vettel now moves up into P12 with Tsunoda in 11th, and then these two will be hunting down Kimi Raikkonen for P10 and potentially Lance Stroll for 9th. So who knows, points could still be on the cards for our boy Sebastian Vettel. But we'll just go back to the point I was making with Bottas. That mistake with the pit stop has really been costly, because Bottas would have been in the pit stop window of Verstappen. He would have had to pit by now, otherwise he would have come out behind Bottas. So that mistake at the pit stop by Mercedes really has been crucial.
It has, and as I think you said before a few minutes ago, now it does literally come down to a straight fight of Lewis Hamilton versus Max Verstappen on circuit. But Max will have to catch and pass Hamilton to win this Grand Prix. Passing Lewis Hamilton is not an easy thing to do. By far, one of the hardest people to pass on track. Max will have a right go, though, no doubt about it. But it's going to be tough, very tough, as Lando Norris 2 seconds quicker than Carlos Sainz, who's 5th at the minute. Carlos has not pitted for the second time. I'm assuming Sainz is trying to do a later pit stop so it can have nice, fresh tyres to push hard on at the end. But I will say, Max has got to pit soon because he's losing a lot of time now to Lewis Hamilton as Carlos Sainz is about to come into the pits, and he does, and he should go on to, and given that we're only 18 laps away from the end, it should be another set of mediums, and no, it's another set of hard tyres. He'll still be very quick, though, towards the end of the Grand Prix. Nicely, Pierre Gasly is up to 15th. He won't get points, though. He's just too far away. As Russell, after his pit stop, is down in 16th. As Yuki Tsunoda, oh, Jesus Christ, that was dramatic. That was a nice wiggle, wasn't it? As now he comes through turn 2. Surely he'll pass Raikkonen. He is much faster in a much faster car as well. Round the outside he'll go, and Yuki Tsunoda will get the position. But what a wiggle that was. That could have ended in a massive crash.
Well, it's good that he's young and he's got those reflexes so that he didn't absolutely go steamrolling into the back of Kimi Raikkonen. Maybe if it was Kimi Raikkonen reacting to what Raikkonen did there, he maybe could have crashed because, well, Kimi is 41 years old or however old he is. But, of course, his reflexes are very good. He's a Formula 1 driver, for crying out loud. Tsunoda in P10. There we go. Yuki in the points, and I'm sure everyone is very happy with that. And I'm sure that Verstappen is going to have to pit. And, wow, before it was even on my screen, here come the Red Bull mechanics into the pit lane. Why have they got a set of the mid? Oh, it's for Sergio Perez. I've done a crofty. Well, I thought they were coming in for... I thought they were coming in for Verstappen, but they're coming in for Perez onto the medium compound tyre, and he's going to be very, very racy here in this final stint. But I wouldn't be surprised if Verstappen is going to come into the pits because now it's a 13.6 gap to Hamilton, and now that will be at about 9-second gap. So, yeah, they really need to bring in Verstappen unless they plan to go onto the softs for the final stint, as Perez just about gets out ahead of Lance Stroll there in P7. Lance Stroll with the DRS is all over the back of Sergio Perez. He's going to try and go around. He's around the outside of his former teammate. Great move there by Lance Stroll as I was fully clenching that hole here. There we go. Verstappen in the pit lane here.
Yep, he is, and this is where the race is really going to get interesting now. But yeah, he has lost a lot of time to great pit stop, 1.9 seconds. Red Bull at it again. That is an incredible stop. Red Bull giving everything to Max Verstappen that he needs to go and have possibly a race win, and he rejoins on the hard compound 8.8 seconds behind Hamilton. So he's got to catch that up in 16 laps and pass Hamilton. If he does, then he fully deserves, without doubt, the race win. But again, catching and then passing Hamilton, that is pretty tough to do. So we'll see what he can do.
Absolute full beans by Verstappen here, that's for sure.
Yeah, he will, as he said before, it will be a full send by him, as he's already took half a second out of Hamilton on this lap alone, as Perez passes Lance Stroll, as we're on lap 40 now. Only 16 laps to go. This race has absolutely flown by, which of course is a good sign. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton in the lead from Max Verstappen second, as Max is already about a second up on this lap. So yeah, he is giving it a full send. He is giving it everything he has got. And if he catches Lewis at that pace, Lewis won't really be able to fight with anything because that's just too quick, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, here we go. And this is the thing that I was talking about just before. If Bottas hadn't had that mistake in the pit stop, he would currently be ahead of Max Verstappen, and that would be very, very crucial.
Yeah, it would, because they're able to use him as a block. As Pierre Gasly, by the way, if there's any Gasly fans out there, down in now 16th place, as they're showing him on the screen. Oh, what could have been if he didn't have that contact? What could have been? Because Yuki Tsunoda looks decently quick today, and Gasly was looking great as well. But yeah, Gasly in 16th place, and about a pit stop behind George Russell, so he'll do well to finish 15th, given the pace difference. But
yeah,
we now have... Go on.
Yeah, now the next real battle that was probably shaping up is, well, of course, here we've got Gasly and Latifi, but the next real battle of importance that's going to shape up is probably Sergio Perez versus Daniel Ricciardo for P6. Of course, Perez on those fresh medium tyres is going to be catching Ricardo on those, I believe Ricardo's on the hard compounded tyres after he made that pit stop with Leclerc at the same time. But Ricardo, 7 seconds off the back of Leclerc, and Perez, 2.7 off of the Australian driver in P6.
Absolutely. I will say, wouldn't you say as well, as Max Verstappen does the fastest lap of a 1:33.2, that is, what, 1.2 seconds quicker than Hamilton, I think? So, yeah, this is looking ominous from Verstappen on lap 42 out of 56. I was just going to ask, with Ferrari, wouldn't you say the race pace looks pretty decent compared to the rest?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty much level with McLaren on the race pace here in this race. Of course, Sainz has had a few issues. He had a little bit of contact there with Stroll, which I don't know how much damage that caused to his car. But yeah, Sainz, his qualifying has been a little bit disappointing, especially considering he's having a really strong weekend. But it's his first race with the team. P9 isn't too bad. He can't repeat his heroes. He's Fernando Alonso's goal, or what Fernando Alonso achieved in 2010 here at the Bahrain Grand Prix, where he won his first race as a Ferrari driver at this Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah, I think Sainz, well, he has pitted quite a bit later than the others, so he might still finish in 8th, I think. His only real battle has to be with Lance Stroll. I don't see him fighting with Ricardo unless Ricardo's tyres just die in the final 13 laps or so, as Max Verstappen, I think, is about to take another second out of Hamilton. So, as Lewis Hamilton has just achieved a new F1 record of, I think, Nib, the most race laps led. Is that the case?
Yeah, that is the case. 5,112. That's absurd.
Yeah, that is a fantastic accomplishment, but will it go with a race win? We'll find out very soon, but 1 second a lap is the pace that Verstappen is catching at, and if that is the pace he's still catching at when he gets right up to the back of him, Hamilton's going to have to put up an even better defence than he did in 2014 at this Grand Prix against his teammate Nico Rosberg, because even though Rosberg was quicker, it wasn't that relentless in terms of how much quicker he was compared to Hamilton, as Lewis has the traffic of Russell here, I think. I will say another positive thing.
Russell.
Not many cars lapped today, which shows how close the field is. Because, I think Hamilton's only lapped 4 cars.
And at some races last year, there was only 4 caps not lapped. Was that Silverstone? Where there was only 4 cars on the lead lap. We were talking about that the other day.
No, I think the Spanish Grand Prix, where you only had
Spanish Grand Prix. That's
the only people on the lead lap were the people on the podium. Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. Everyone else was a lap behind. So it just shows you how close the field is at the moment in Formula One, as Lewis Hamilton laps his way past as Max is still catching very, very quickly. Did lose, though, quite a bit of time there for some reason. Went down to 4.9. They went straight back up to 5.4, so something must have happened.
Might have just been the DRS and the slipstream. I think it is that powerful.
Yeah, you could be right. At least Hamilton, though, he's got a car in between. Of course, Russell will nice to get out of the way of Verstappen, but if Max catches him at a wrong point, that could play a small factor in the finishing result, as Sergio Perez is now right behind, as we can see kind of on the TV broadcast with a small little TV box. He's about to pass, I think, Daniel Ricardo.
Yep.
Will he go down the inside? And I don't think Ricardo's going to fight this because he knows Perez is much quicker, as Sergio Perez is up to 6th place on lap 44 out of 56. I think it's going to be tough for Perez to get Norris, though, because Norris is still another 12, 13 seconds up the road. So I think Norris might end up finishing 4th here in what you'd have to say is one hell of a drive. As, yeah, Perez up to 6th. There's a contact between Ocon and Vettel at turn 1. I just noticed Ocon passed Vettel before I started updating the order, and Vettel's got back ahead, so I'm going to assume there was contact at turn 1, and Alpine's day just gets worse because they're very slow, nowhere near the points, and now contact with Vettel, and Vettel's front wing is broken. The front, is it right corner? Flapping about?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the end plate.
Yeah, what an awful weekend for Vettel. So here you go. Round the outside, Ocon goes. And that is clearly Sebastian Vettel's fault. That's exactly what he did with Max Verstappen, if you remember, at Silverstone a couple years ago. Pulled right back in beyond the slipstream, locks up, and just goes straight into the back. Yeah. So Sebastian, entirely to blame for that. They're not really fighting for a points finish, though, so it's not exactly massively important, but...
If Vettel just stayed in the clean air on the right-hand side, he wouldn't have locked up. He would have been fine. Yeah. That was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It was weird.
Yeah.
But now we have, or we're about to be in a moment, as Max Verstappen now just under 4 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. We're about to go on to lap 46 out of 56 in the fight for victory. As Hamilton, I think the only thing he can do really to help is put cars in between him and Max Verstappen just to make it somewhat harder, even though Max is still catching relentlessly, as now Carlos Sainz right behind the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, who Carlos, of course, pitted a lot later for his second stop, so this is not exactly a surprise. But can Sainz get past? Most likely he will, but probably not until the pit straight, I'd imagine, as Max laps the Williams. We get 4 seconds between the front two, with 10 laps to go, so we're going to see a wheel-to-wheel battle as long as Max keeps catching at this rate. But who comes out on top, I don't know. If it's a second a lap, you'd have to say Verstappen, wouldn't you, Nib? Because that's just too much of a pace difference.
You would, but he's not exactly catching him by a second now. It's certainly been a lot less than that recently. He's just gained about 2 tenths, but certainly getting past the traffic will help Verstappen a lot because, of course, there is turbulent airs. We've got Carlos Sainz here, closing up to the back of Lance Stroll into turn 1, up the inside. Is he going to get the move done? Stroll is there alongside him, is he? No, he gets the move done, Carlos Sainz, as I assume there's going to be a battle now up into P4. I don't know why they don't just show this on the main screen when we're not literally looking at anything. We're looking at a bloody Hamilton behind a lapped car of Esteban Ocon. That was absurd. But here we go. As I was saying, he wasn't catching by a second. It's now 3.2, and when I just started talking, it was 4 seconds. So, yeah, Hamilton, he is going to be under pressure here for sure. It's going to be a great final 10 laps of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it definitely will. Hopefully no contact. That's all I'm hoping for, to be honest. Is Sainz is a replay. Stroll, I think rightfully kind of let him go. I mean, he's not as quick, anywhere near as quick at this current point of the Grand Prix, again, because Ferrari have the quicker car, and Carlos Sainz pitted so much later than Lance Stroll. So the rightful thing was done as Hamilton laps Ocon, and Vettel and Ocon are going to go at it again. Yeah, now 2 cars between Hamilton. This is going to have an effect, Nib, because these 2 cars are going to battle, and then Max might get held up here. So this might play a small but key role if there's any more battling or contact or anything like that.
Well, hopefully there's not any more contact, but yeah, they need to make sure they get out of Max Verstappen's way. As Verstappen, will he get DRS here? I think he will get DRS, which will be very helpful. Ricardo is struggling with the tyres, and honestly, I think Vettel should get like a 10-second penalty for that. I mean, that was quite ridiculous. Or maybe a 5 or a 10-second penalty for Vettel. As we're on board here, well, not on board, on the nose of Max Verstappen, as Ocon is going up the inside of Vettel. Vettel not locked up this time, but now they need to make sure that they get out the way of Verstappen here. I'm sure Vettel will let him go as they head up to turn 4. And will he get out the way? Will he? I think he does get out the way. He just pulled up over to the inside there.
But this is...
There we go, Verstappen.
But I'm just saying, this is costing Max. I mean, it's only half a second or something, but still important. But 2.5 seconds now the gap on lap 48 out of 56. So, and Bottas, of course, is in 3rd. Lando Norris is 4th. It looks like Norris has easily got 4th place. Leclerc 5th. Can he hang on ahead of Perez? I think he might, because his pace is pretty good, Leclerc. Perez is 6th and Ricardo 7th. Yeah. Carlos Sainz 8th. Stroll 9th and Tsunoda 10th. And then you got Raikkonen 11th and Giovinazzi 12th. Ocon 13th. Vettel 14th. Really, the whole field looks as though it's going to finish the way it is, except for the battle for 1st and 2nd. As Max Verstappen definitely has not caught him as quickly on this lap as he probably hoped. Still has caught him a bit, as it's now down to 2.4 seconds on now lap 49 out of 56. And we're basically just building up, aren't we, to that moment when Max gets DRS, because, again, there's no other fights on track at the moment, as Hamilton, I will say, to be honest, we'll have to analyse it after the Grand Prix in terms of the strategy and who won that battle, because it's been very close between these two. But if Hamilton can keep Max behind and win this Grand Prix, then what a drive by Hamilton. But also Red Bull, I think, have still been not been great strategically. But that, again, that could be proven wrong if Max wins this Grand Prix. Not catching him, though, that quickly on this lap compared to other laps. It's 2 or 3 tenths so far, but nothing...
It was 2.7 at the start of the lap. He's caught him a little bit this lap.
And now he is into the final sector, yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit more information on Alonso's retirement. There was some debris trapped in the brake duct, which caused it to overheat and then forced him to retire.
Yeah, when that happens, you might as well just pull in the pits and retire, because it's not going to end well for you. As for Verstappen, gap under 2 seconds on 1.9 seconds. As Max Verstappen, I think, will probably be within DRS on lap 52, I would guess. Lap 53 at the latest. Driver of the day vote that's showing on the screen. Make sure, guys, in the chat, so when this race finishes, to let me know what your driver of the day is. Currently, on the broadcast, they've gone, or the fans have gone for Perez first, then Verstappen and Norris. Who would you go for, Nib, as driver of the day? It's hard to say.
I'd say Lando Norris.
Yeah, he's got to be up there. If Hamilton wins, I'd probably go Hamilton. But if not, then yeah, I'd probably go Lando Norris as well, because the gap he has to the rest of the midfield is so impressive. 8 seconds clear of Leclerc, 2.5, then another 2.5 to Perez. Also, he's almost a pit stop, or nearly a pit stop, ahead of his own teammate, Ricardo, even though Ricardo outqualified him. So, great performance by...
here we go, Chaz. It's getting close.
Yeah, 1.3 seconds it is, as we are now going to be on lap 51 out of 56. So, yeah, the next lap, lap 52, it should be Verstappen within DRS. He caught half a second on that lap. Hamilton giving it everything, Max giving it everything. It's exactly what we want to see. These two head-to-head giving it everything. And we are in for a grandstand finish. As I've just noticed, George Russell is right behind Sebastian Vettel and about to depose Vettel, I think, of 14th place. So, and Russell might even beat Ocon. It's a great drive from Russell if he can beat those two. As Max hasn't gained, it's only gained probably a 10th on this lap so far, if that. Because now, as Hamilton's off the circuit, runs wide at the exit of turn 10 and loses about 0.4 or 3.5 of a second. Verstappen, though, still does not have DRS range. Or now he does. I was going to say, now that Verstappen's in the dirty air, Lewis Hamilton might be able to keep him at bay for a couple of laps, but that is not the case anymore. As here we go, Max Verstappen within DRS. Here comes the battle. Max versus Lewis. It is 0.8 of a second as they're about to start lap 52 out of 56. And Max got a very good exit. Gained a 10th just on the exit. And here we go. What is the gap like? Will Max go for the inside? No, he's way too far behind.
Well, way too far back yet. Settle down, Crofty.
But Lewis, you see, losing the rear a bit on the exit of turn 1. And Max, look at that. He's gained a couple tenths of a second, but still not close enough. The Mercedes, very strong in a straight line, got to say, as Max really closes in. But I was going to say, before Lewis made that mistake, now he's in the dirty air, Max. It's going to be, as Martin Brundle has said many times before, catching is one thing, passing is another. And this is why, because the dirty air effect really has a massive effect on your tyres and your grip behind another car.
Yeah, but just look how much more grip Verstappen has here. He's able to stay close to Hamilton here. Certainly much, much closer. And the pressure is on Hamilton. He made a mistake here at turn 10 last lap. Doesn't on this lap. And if he can get close enough in this final sector, I'm pretty confident he can get the move done into turn 1. Look at this. He's within half a second into turn 11. And Sergio Perez has gotten past Charles Leclerc. Up into P5. That's a mega result for Sergio Perez.
Absolutely is. Perez up to 5th. Oh, Leclerc's back up to 5th now. So I'm guessing they're side by side now. Perez is back ahead. As there's a car ahead. A lap car.
I believe.
Don't think Hamilton got DRS, did he? No, he didn't. That is a big, big thing as Max Verstappen now closes in the slipstream. Can Lewis Hamilton hold him back? Max Verstappen to the outside. Max will go for the switchback. Lewis, though, held him very well there, but Max will gain so much on the exit here. Can Lewis Hamilton get DRS here? No, he cannot. He will defend to the inside. Max Verstappen round the outside for the lead of the Grand Prix. Hamilton goes to the inside. Max Verstappen, did he overtake him off the track, though? As Verstappen is into the lead, but did Verstappen pass Hamilton off the track?
Yes, he did. Absolutely.
So he should let him.
It certainly looked like it.
It looked like it from that camera angle. Looked like he passed him off the track, so he's got to let him back through. But I don't think he will. Don't think he will in a million years. Max Verstappen takes the lead with about 4 or 3.5 laps to go. And yes, he does let it back through. Lewis Hamilton back into the lead, but is Verstappen just going to get straight back into the slipstream? What a battle this is. So Hamilton back into the lead. And now we've got, at the end of this lap, there'll be 3 full laps to go. Look at this. This is so great. Max jockeying the rear end, trying to keep up, and he's gone wide. But he's still within a second as Gasly has gone up to 15th ahead of Vettel. Vettel, of course, struggling. His front wing is damaged as Latifi is pitted. And Stroll has lost 9th to Tsunoda. So Stroll really struggling now as Verstappen has lost quite a bit of ground as we now got 3 laps to go. Will Max send it? Surely not. No. Smart that Verstappen let him back through, I think, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. He absolutely would have got a penalty for that.
But that's the thing. If he can't get the move done anywhere else other than there, then it's hard to see him getting past there because you kind of have to go that wide sometimes to get a move done. So he's got to get it done really at turn 1 or on the straight to turn 4. As
he's starting to struggle for Verstappen behind him. He really is.
Yeah, his car looks a bit all over the place as Lance Stroll has got back ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, which is interesting. As I think Latifi has retired because he's been in the pits a while. So I think Latifi is out. And Gasly's in the pits as well. Hopefully not a double retirement for those two. But Verstappen now, he's still close enough. He's closer now. And yeah, I think Gasly and Latifi are out. They're both retired because they've been in the pits quite a while. So let me just update that. But onto the penultimate. And look that. Max has fallen outside of DRS, has he?
He's really struggling through turn 13.
He hasn't got the DRS, and this is now the penultimate lap. Oh, Max, he's given himself a very hard chance to pass, to be honest, because now he's got to get back within DRS and overtake Hamilton on the final lap as Bottas is coming in, I'm guessing, for a fastest lap point. If Hamilton doesn't make a mistake, though, Nib, I think Hamilton's got this.
Yeah, I think so too, Chaz.
Because it's about 1.1 seconds and Max just can't catch anymore. So Max has had his chance. Got the move done, but illegally. And now it looks as though Max might have just lost all that positive momentum. What a shame for Verstappen. He is still within a second, though, at the minute. So it's not all over by any stretch of the imagination then. Yeah, Gasly and Latifi are out of the race, basically retired because, well, their races are done anyway. As
he's got DRS down into turn 11. He's been really, really struggling through turn 13. He just needs to get through turn 13 smoothly.
And he doesn't, not quite, does he? He just didn't quite get a good enough run through there. He will get DRS though, but I don't see this being enough unless Lewis Hamilton makes a mistake. As we come on to the final lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix of 2021, I think Hamilton has got this just about, unless Max Verstappen just sends it from a mile back and has a massive accident. But that won't be smart for the championship if he is to be a contender. As Hamilton, well, Verstappen only half a second behind as they run up through turn 2 and 3. This is his chance. If he's going to make the move, it's going to be here, but he's not close enough, surely. No. All Hamilton's got to do is not make a mistake, I think. And I think he will have another race win. What a fantastic drive from Lewis Hamilton. And, you know, Verstappen still drove well. Not as well as Hamilton, of course, but still driven very nicely indeed. But there is still another DRS zone and then the back straight before the final corner before it is over. Max, oh, look at that. He gained, what was that, 2 or 3 tenths in the turn 10. Hamilton did make a small mistake. So can Max get enough of a run through turn 11, 12, 13 and 14 to possibly get close enough? No, he's lost 2 or 3 tenths. It's so close as Hamilton comes
He's
through.
struggling so much through 11, 12, and 13 is Verstappen.
Absolutely, and the dirty air definitely has had an effect on his front tyres as we come to the final corner. Lewis Hamilton rounds the final corner and comes to the line. Lewis Hamilton just about wins the Bahrain Grand Prix of 2021. Max Verstappen is second. What a race between those two. What a climax. Max couldn't get it done. Lewis with another great drive. It will be Valtteri Bottas in third place, Lando Norris fourth, Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth, Ricardo seventh, Sainz in eighth, Tsunoda ninth, Stroll in 10th, and then Raikkonen in P11, and then everyone down from 12th has already finished because they are a lap down. But what a race between those two. And if we're going to get that 22 more times in 2021, then fucking bring it on. Well, there you go. What do you think of that then, Nib, the battle? And here we go. Here's a replay, actually. Hold on. So, Verstappen round the outside of turn.
Bottas still on the fastest lap.
And yet, Bottas has got the fastest lap. And we just saw a replay of Verstappen Hamilton. Verstappen was definitely off the track, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so there you go. All decided by that. And it's good to see, by the way, the stewards being so strict. Because he clearly went off of the track. Get the move done. So there you go. Well, yeah, there you go. What else do you want me to say? There's your race.
Wow.
In Bahrain. What's your initial thoughts then as to the... let's first start with the battle between Hamilton and Verstappen. What would you say is the number one reason? I mean, there's plenty of reasons, but what's the number one reason as to why Lewis Hamilton won that Grand Prix?
Definitely the good strategy of Mercedes. Them bringing in Hamilton for the undercut in the first stint really was the crucial moment. It's where they got the jump on Red Bull. Red Bull caught off guard, didn't bring in Verstappen immediately, and I think that is certainly what lost Red Bull the Grand Prix, and what won Lewis Hamilton the Grand Prix is the strategy. Red Bull got it wrong, and Mercedes got it correct. Ultimately.
There you go. On screen, I've got a picture now of Verstappen. There you can see that's clear evidence. Off the track, passing Hamilton around the outside. So great to see that he gave the position back and that the stewards, again, have been so strict on that. But yeah, that was I wouldn't say it was a legendary race, a great race, but it was definitely a good Grand Prix, and even a very good Grand Prix, you could argue. But yeah, Hamilton, Verstappen, and then Bottas. Like you said, Niv, fastest lap to Valtteri Bottas. Norris fourth, Perez fifth, Leclerc sixth, and Ricardo, Sainz, Stroll, and Tsunoda. Like you said, Norris, what a drive. Perez, great drive. That midfield fight was really decided in the first 20 laps or so, and then the rest of the field kind of as expected. But any surprises in the midfield? Anything that really caught your eye today?
The pace of Ferrari. They really are right there with McLaren, and I don't think many people expected that.
Yeah, I didn't expect that coming into this weekend, and even after qualifying, I doubted whether they'd have the race pace, but they did. And of course, with the two drivers they have, going to help even more when dragging performance out of that car. And yeah, McLaren versus Ferrari. Who don't want to see that? And I'm sure they'll be close enough at Imola in 3 weeks' time. So driver of the day, I think you're going Lando Norris, am I correct?
Yeah, I'd go... Oh, geez, hard not to say Hamilton after that. But yeah, I'm going Lando Norris. So impressed with his drive today.
Yeah, I'd definitely say he's one of the drivers of the day, no doubt about it. But I've got to go Lewis Hamilton because to hold on at the end... And to drive the way he did, he drove, except for that mistake at turn 10, he got the best out of his car, got absolutely everything that was in that Mercedes package, which is all you can ask for in a driver. And of course, wins the Grand Prix and what could be a very important victory later on in 2021. But guys, for the final, say, 10-15 minutes of this stream, let me know who is your driver of the day. Also, thank you guys very much for watching, of course. And as well, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as we will be doing this for every Grand Prix in 2021. And of course, in 3 weeks' time is the next Grand Prix, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at Imola. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or go to my channel page. Smash the like button, share this video everywhere you can. And again, post in the chat and in the comments as well what you thought of the race and who is your driver of the day. And also remember, I'll be live tomorrow night to do a full in-depth review of just everything that happened in the race, and really a look into why what happened with data and stuff like that. So yeah, make sure to join me for that tomorrow. But yeah, let's come to you guys in the chat for the final few minutes. Ez says driver of the day, Sergio Perez. Lots of people saying Perez. Roberto Marx says Lewis is the GOAT. Alvin says Tsunoda for driver of the day. Hamilton equals consistency. Absolutely. Let me just look for some other comments here if I can. Bristol Racing says stunning race. I'm not sure I would say stunning, but it was definitely a good race. There's no doubt about it. You cannot deny that. I'm not sure if I would say it was a stunning Grand Prix, because it did kind of... The midfield battle kind of fell flat in the final 20 laps or so. It kind of just equaled itself out and everyone finished where they finished. Which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, the finish between Hamilton and Verstappen definitely was so good. But let's see some other driver of the days. By the way, thank you, Astro Stevo, who says cheers. Chazza. Crystal Racing says Hamilton. Bo Honk. Ham should get 5-second penalty for off-track entire race. Yeah, no. Let me look for some other comments here if I can. Tsunoda points on debut. Well done, I'm guessing Astro Stevo says, not well point. What a run for Perez, says Murray Jefferson. Facing disaster top 5. There's another thing we've got to mention, Nib. It seems a long time ago, but Perez broke down on the formation lap and he finished P5. What a drive.
Yeah.
That was, I mean...
Very good drive, absolutely.
Can you... I got to say, I'm so surprised that he was able to reset that. I mean, I know they can, and they have that ability now, but I thought he would definitely still have problems. But as soon as the race got underway, he just flew through the field. By the way, just want to mention as well, the people who finished outside the points but did not score points: Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Ocon, Russell, Vettel, and Schumacher. Mick Schumacher ended up finishing about 1 million miles behind everyone else. And then retiring from the race, Gasly, that's very disappointing. Latifi, Alonso, and Mazepin. And the Constructors' Championship will look like... well, I'll show it tomorrow, of course, but it'll be Mercedes top, Red Bull second, McLaren third, Ferrari fourth, Aston Martin fifth, and then Alpha Tauri sixth with just a single point, which I think Alpha Tauri honestly would be very disappointed with that, because I thought they would get at least 10 points today, but only 1 for Tsunoda. But good debut for Yuki Tsunoda. Robert Cummings, London, says excellent quality commentary, guys, no doubt. Thank you very much for that. Let me find a couple more, and then I think we'll come to the end of the stream here. Palm Boom 313. Where is race control at stopping Hamilton from gaining time at turn 4 the whole race, and at turn 10 when he was definitely defending from he wasn't defending from Verstappen in turn 10. That's complete rubbish.
Hamilton got a warning, by the way, about the exceeding the track limits at turn 4.
Yeah. Well, how many times did he do it?
He did get a warning. I believe 2, and he said he was going to get the black and white flag.
Yeah.
It was like on his final warning.
Yeah. So you can't say Hamilton was, his track extending was ignored. It wasn't. Again, yeah, he did it a couple times, but if you do it a couple times on your own, that's fine, because, they're not just going to say, it's not the F1 game where you do it once and you get a penalty. So, yeah, I think it's fine. And then, obviously, turn 10. Hamilton is not defending from Verstappen into turn 10. That's ridiculous. Hamilton was 1.4 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. And then Hamilton went off, so definitely wasn't that. Dexter Hall says, thanks, Chaz, a great commentary. Let me see if I can find a couple more comments. Let me read it. Actually, I'm going to end on this one from Stephen Mooney, who says, Ferrari have definitely stepped up. The pace itself might not have improved a major amount, but they have been able to develop a car that can stay consistent over the course of a race. Indeed, I think Ferrari probably, this weekend, you'd have to say probably 4th quickest, maybe 5th at worst. But yeah, looking good for Ferrari this weekend and for the season, I think, or better for the season, definitely. But Nib, thank you so much for coming on. Your internet lasted for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Did.
Which I honestly thought, no way will that happen. Somehow your internet will drop out. But it lasted. And honestly, mate, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. It's been, 15, 16 months since the last one we did together.
Yeah.
And it was great. And just thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me back on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed my time. And we have to wait 3 bloody weeks till we do it again at Imola. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's sad. 3 weeks.
I know. It should be, honestly, it should be tomorrow. But, yeah, I cannot wait for that. And yeah, we'll see you for that Grand Prix as well. But yeah, thank you again, mate. But I just want to say again, thank you to you guys for this weekend. So many viewers, so many new subs. Thank you very, very much. Again, I'll be live tomorrow night for a race review to cover all of the events of the Grand Prix in more detail. And again, go into the data and just inform you guys as to, again, why what happened. So make sure to join me for that and subscribe for that video. And hit the notifications bell. That would be very, very nice. Hit the like button as well. Smash the like button even. Share the video as much as you can to grow this channel. That'd be very much appreciated as well. Comment down below what you thought of the race and your driver of the day. Don't forget to join our Discord server, link below in the description. We have, almost 500 people on that server, and it's very active. Really, the whole year round, never mind during the season. So make sure to join that. If you want to email me for any reason, my email address is down below in the description. But yeah, there you go. The first Grand Prix of 2021 is done. Only 22 races to go. And as Nib said, 3 weeks to Imola. So when it comes to watch-alongs, until practice 3, because that's the next watch-along I'm doing, practice 3 at Imola, in 3 weeks' time, it's been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.